Welcome back, my fellow game developers, to honestly one of the best videos that I have ever made, because this is one of the few times that something happens, we have a bug in the game, but it actually turns out to be much better than what was originally intended. So it's amazing, you'll see what I mean during the video, but for now, let's run the game. And you'll see that I've created this little goblin. So this goblin just walks around randomly. So you can see he walks to some point, he stops, he then walks away, he stops, and if we get close enough, you can see that he starts chasing and throwing bombs at us, Look, how cool is that? If we get away from him, there you go, you can see that he just continues to walk around until we get back in range, and then he starts chasing us like a freaking lunatic with that knife. I'm so lucky to have found these sprites. They are so cool. So let's not waste any more time and let's get started. Okay, so now we have a cowardly enemy. Time to add the wanderer. So I'm going to go into my enemies in the prefabs, and in here I'm going to add the patrolling, nope, the goblin. There we go. So we add the goblin. Let's remove the coward, or you know what, let's turn off the cowardly fly. Maybe we'll add him later on. And then we are going to check out the goblin. So look at the goblin, how cool is he? So he runs around, he shoots people. I don't know with what, I don't know what he does actually. He just, I think he throws a bomb or something. But anyways, he is going to be a wanderer. So let's go, and he's called the Goblin Wanderer 1. So let's make him the Goblin Wanderer. Apply the changes. Okay, so the name is still the same. Anyways, let's open up our scripts and let's see what we're going to do in here. So I'm going to go up, and in here I'm going to create the enemies that wander and chase, or let's just call it the enemies that wander. So in here I'm going to create a serialized field, and it's going to be a boolean, and it's going to be should wander. Wander, is it A or is it O? I don't know, I'm just going to stick with A. So wander. And then I'm going to create a serialized field for two floats. The first one is going to be the wander length. So how long does he wander? I'm going to say it however I want. And then we have the pause length. So for how long does he pause before he starts wandering again? And then I'm going to create obviously two things, because it seems that it's obvious that we are using counters in here. So I'm going to create a private float and wander counter, and then the pause counter. And by the way, something that I believe I did not mention in the previous video, in the game mode I've turned off everything related to music. So I've made sure that the music audio is off, just for testing reasons. We don't want to keep having background music, and for my neighbors, obviously, to keep them sane in the next couple of months until I finish recording. Anyways, back in here, I don't need the cops again. Anyways, private, and finally we need to obviously get the wander direction. in here we are going to get the direction to move in, and it's going to be the wander direction. We still haven't set it, but we will. And then we're going to check. And then as we are removing from the wander counter, we are going to check if at any point the wander counter becomes less than or equal to 0. We are then going to set something called the pause counter. And this pause counter isn't just going to be any pause counter. We are going to create a random.range, and this random.range will have the pause counter times 0.75f and the pause counter times 1.25f. So you might be wondering, why are we doing this? Well, because we want to have a very random way of pausing our game, or sorry, not pausing our game, of pausing the enemy. So he will wait a really different time every single time before he starts moving. This will add more variety to the way he moves. And then after we check in here, so we check for the wander counter, we remove from it, we set the direction. Now it's actually time to decide which direction we are going to be going in. So in here I'm going to check if the pause counter is still greater than 0. So the pause counter is greater than 0. Obviously the first thing we're going to do is we'll be removing from the pause counter, so time dot delta time, and then we are going to check if the pause counter at any point becomes less than or equal to 0. Then in here we are going to do two things. The first thing is we are going to choose the pause counter, and instead we are going to be setting the wander counter, and it's going to be the, in here it's not the pause counter, it's the pause length. So pause length, sorry for that. And in here, instead of the pause counter, we are going to set the wander length and the wander length. So this was something I did not notice, excuse me for that. But in here we don't just want to set the counter, we also want to set the wander direction. And this is going to be your challenge. So your challenge is to give the wanderer a random, not and, a random. So after we reset the counter, we need a new wander direction. You'll need to set the wander direction as a new vector 3. You will need to set the x and the y should be random numbers. You make sure that you keep the z as it is, or even better, you should set it as 0. Finally, a hint, it's to make the range between -1f and 1f, and that's just so that the enemy doesn't wander very far along. So with that information, pause the video right now and go do the challenge. Okay, welcome back. How did you get on with that? So after we set the wander counter, we are going to set the wander direction, and the wander direction obviously is a vector 3. You can see it right here. So we're going to create a new vector 3 and we're going to open up. Now obviously the z-axis should stay the same, so we're going to set a random dot range, and it's going to be -1f, -1f and 1f. Then we are going to set this one for the x, this one is for the y, and finally we have 0f at the end. So let's look back at what is happening in here. First of all, we start off, we check, should we wander? If yes, then we are going to check, is the wander counter greater than 0? Then we continue on, we check, we keep removing time from it, we set the direction because obviously we are wandering, we just want to set the direction immediately, and then we keep removing, doing this loop, doing this loop, doing this loop. Obviously at this point the pause counter should be 0, but when the wander counter is less than 0, the pause counter gets a random value, and then we get this condition to true, and this one will be at false. So we start off right here, start removing from the pause counter until at one point we get a pause counter that is less than 0. We set a random wander counter, and at the same time we set a wander direction. We stop this if statement, we go back in here, and again we start removing. We have a new wander direction that we've determined right here during the pause time, and we keep removing until again the wander counter is less than 0, a new pause counter, we start this one, and we continue on doing all of that. But there is one thing that you need to consider, and that is we need to initiate either the pause counter or the wander counter. So up in start, I'm going to create a condition in here, and if we should wander, I remember that was the condition. Okay, should wander. If we should wander, then we need to set a pause counter, which is equal to a random dot range between the pause length times 0.75 and then the pause length times 1.25f. There we go. So it's pretty much the same as we have in here. Up here we initialize the pause counter. He waits, so the enemy waits a bit, then he realizes, oh, I need to start moving. Or in here, where is it? In here. So we initialize some value, we start removing from it. When it gets to less than 0, we start the whole chain in here, and he starts chasing. Wandering. And there is something, because we wanted to add the chasing to the enemy. First, let's see if this actually works, and then we will add the chasing. So back in our game, let's see what we have in here. So the goblin wandering. Let's first of all set everything. So let's keep the should chase away. And okay, so the blue one is for the projectile. So I'm going to maybe make the shooting range a little bit smaller. And then the time between shots, let's keep it as it is. Should run away, no. Should wander, yes. Wander length, how long does he wander around? For 1 second. How long does he pause? You know what, let's keep 2 and 2, save that, run the game, and let's see how that looks. So I'm going to get a bit close to him. There you go, you can see that he just went in some random direction, and there you go, you can see that every 2 seconds he just walks around. Okay, so there he stops there. Let's see. And then you can see it's not a very smart enemy, obviously. He sometimes walks into walls, he gets stuck there. Okay, so he's running after us. There you go. He's in range. Does he shoot? He's not shooting. Okay, so, oh, there we go. So he is shooting when he gets in range. How cool is that? Now, the next thing that we want to add is if we get in the vicinity of this enemy, we want him to start not just shooting at us, but actually running towards us because he has a bomb, it's heavy, he needs to get close to throw it at us. This is something I just came up with. So, how are we going to do this? The problem in here is that we have the condition for the chasing or we have the condition for the wandering. So if I go back in here and I just set the, where is it? Where is the little guy right here? The goblin wanderer. So should chase player. Then we are going to have the player chase range. There we go. So it's a little bit, oh no, maybe it's like that. And the keep chasing. Okay, sure, let's just make it random like this. Player chase range. Let's see what happens when he actually starts chasing us. And there we go. Let's see how that will work. So I get close to him. And as you can see, is he chasing? Okay, so he is chasing, then going again and wandering. So if I stay in here, you can see that it's kind of a mechanic, but at the same time, he stops somewhere. You know what? I'm actually very surprised by the way his movement is really crazy and amazing. So you can see that he keeps chasing. At some point, he just starts wandering again. So I love the randomness in this, but just for the sake of understanding how I wanted to make the game, or how my idea, what I wanted to do is he wanders, but when the player is in the range of chasing, then he starts chasing and stops wandering. So let's see how that will look. So back in here, you can see that when we start chasing, we set the is chasing to true. So in here, we should check for 2 things. If we should be wandering and, where is it? And we are not chasing. So he is not chasing. So back in here, we run the game. And now you'll notice that he will be wandering. So we are outside the chase range. He wanders around. Hope he goes my way. So obviously you can see that the random in Unity isn't that good. So you can see that we are in range, and there you go. You can see that he is chasing us. He is no longer just wandering. He will keep chasing us until we get a bit away. And there we go. You can see that he just keeps wandering around. Now, honestly, I loved how he was just going between wandering and chasing, and his movement was very erratic and he was not sure what's happening. I loved it. If you want, you can keep it that way, and if not, if you like the way he was just pausing, chasing us, and then when we get away he just keeps wandering, then be my guest. It is up to you. And as you can see, sometimes you just come up with things, and little bugs in the game make the interesting parts of the game. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you are committing your changes. I hope you have left a review. It helped me out a lot. So if you haven't already, don't hesitate. Go leave me a review. It really, really helps me out a lot. If not, I'll see you in the next video where we will be creating the last enemy, which is the Patroller. So see you then.